Hey there, mateys. This is Discovery Scouts, a Pirates of the Caribbean film series here, and today is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2016, on the midnight at 12 a.m. Sorry about that. Today will be the Pirates of the Caribbean movie madness, and to be continued, the Curse of the Black Pearl. So remember that it happened there for to be continued. The part three for the last one is skirmishers on the Interceptor and the Island of the Black Pearl versus Interceptor, Molly Crew versus Courage Pirates. So we're gonna talk to you guys in about Captain Jack Sparrow, Will Turner, Elizabeth Swan, and Josh Me Gibbs, Marty Cotton, and Captain Hector Barbosa and his crew, and Patel Getty and Jack the Monkey. Um, what would you actually be in the starting about do all over about the first movies to be in about to continue at about 15 at about 10 minutes to be a lesson side. The interceptor almost flooded all over to the deck, and Will's trapping into the deck when the sails goes down into the two cannonballs on the chainsaw to the chains. Um, he left over by Pantella Rigetti, just as the aftermath. You know, it knows it about being the villain, the first movie, and he knows about Will's drowning. Elizabeth couldn't help him. He catching them. Well, and Jack won't give him his Aztec gold, but he say thank you, Jack. He says welcome. He said not him. The name the monkey, Jack. Well, but he started explosive and it sank. He was consideration. He gonna to be tell us anybody to secrets. He was almost died in the water. He wasn't alive. He was certainly alive. Elizabeth stops him from Barbosa dead. He could have resisted. He could resist her. He was pulling over his body. Tried to stop him about resuming him. What does he want? He is a boy. But Will wants to arrest him for his coup in the Pearl. His mutiny in one of her for no reasons. He has fallen thrones in the seven seas into the epic sea battle. The after the skirmish on the Somali cruise, they have been captured. They have to capture it. They're just literally the scenes what was going on there. The Jack and Will just in mutinated. He was getting out of there to the water and jumping over. Well, Will and Gibbs and his crew and Anna Maria Marty Cotton. They're the most half of the Molly pirate stuff, and they're gonna be about brig taken down to the brig. They had just literally just scenes what was just going on there. He has been exhausted to getting Elizabeth back, and he won't deal with him. And she says too long that he said he pushed over and he fell down to the water. He almost getting heck out of here, and that's really meant to and mostly same as about notorious pirate around the world. We actually be started for chance for you guys for right now. For one more thing, if you do without a chance for you as a notice of being wildly as stranger. As he knows to drop his sword and his pistols, and he jumps down from the ship. He jumps the water from the ship. He tries to swim down to the coral reef, but he picks up, and he goes up on the ground from the water and gets a mare, and he gets on the beach. and it gets on the island, you know. And the Pearl goes back to the seven seas to it's like the Mata and the quarters of the treasure, you know. He he knows about the ruin. He knows that Jack and Elizabeth was ruining his life, you know. Jack Jack's saying for Elizabeth here, buddy. He says, the Black Pearl's gone. The Black Pearl's gone. And she was saying about the Jack. She was consideration. So he was definitely about calling for the aid for they were definitely he was a banishment. He was a being banishment for the East Indian Trading Company, and she was mentioned that from the second and third movie. Um, and she's saying he can't hear from her. She was gonna get some the bottle from underground. She was to bend up upstairs into the treasure chest. He opens up from the ground. He's not very sure about drinking some of the mixture and mixture and the potions. When it looks like the wine, and it looks like the juice a lot. In the night of the fire in the beach, and the pirate's life for me and Jack and Elizabeth tries to do the very emotional and relationship, and she seems about for well into the HMS Dauntless and Commodore and Governor Swan, and Jack said to the Black Pearl, he drinks a lot of bottle. You know, he's trying to drink it down, gets him drunk and sleep. And today in the morning of the day, they're considering to smoking, considering hearing the smoking under the fire. He was thrown into the empty room, and she tries to throw it into the explosive into the palm trees. He panics and freaks out and gasps. But he walks over. Why is a rum gun? What is she doing? And he wasn't even a good try to dose stuff. He tried to dose it about the bad decisions. He was a terrible things happen. You know that really means to a lot of those about very 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 tired for him. And those of you who wasn't convincing for Jack and Elizabeth goes to the walking away from Elizabeth. And Jack ruins into his rum in flames by Elizabeth. He looks over to the HMS Dauntless, poured it into the ship. And he saved him, but he saved him from the mutiny just early for now. His father, Governor Weatherby Swan, he was still about very anytime, and he could a lot of the stuff really can do with him, you know. So he has it about very impossible for sort of chances to being about Tales in the Black Pearl, but he cares about the ghost ships and the ghost ships into the fog in the night. But he caused it a lot again. It's about an attack on the Port Royal from an escape of Jack and Will does from last week. But here consideration seems how was it about bad and well. He was do well. You know, he signed nation for James Norrington from Jack for interesting for coming back for it's like the Mata to finishes up to the battle stuff, and Patel Spaghetti and mopping into the deck and mopping into the deck floor onto the brig, and Gibbs is swearing about the can't hearing. He tries to whack on the brick, and tries to whack on the jail brick, and he tells about his father, Bootstrap Bill Turner. He led by Pentel Wiggetti his about pirate long stories. he said it 2 times about bootstrap, but he was considering it was the insanity. He was recycling for the Pentel spaghetti. He was considering for about he was telling about his stories. You know, he was concerned about the what's happened there, and he was been underestimated from last 2 days. His soul's wanted about 5 days left, and Will Turner has about 10 years left. But he goes what happened there with his destroying his 7 seas with his crew, and to be his whereabouts and the most terrible things happen. Barbosa and his crew wants to bring a Will to the Codex, to the blood of a gold. Commodore and Jack was rowing to the boats all around to the Black Pearl, but he don't care about the storm's positions and about very foggy out there, most of the darkness in the night in the 7 seas into the cliff and rock, and most of it like in Helling, and he'll tell about it by himself about the rowing boat. He only thinking about very enchances to being a normal man, and Elizabeth didn't make it for his talking about what happened there for the naughtiest pirate, the curse on his crew. He transformed for the skeleton from the human. Lieutenant Gillett was unconfirmative for Elizabeth Swan. He locked down his cabin doors. He was leaving there alone, and he rows back to the boat inside to the cave, and he was certainly possible. The cursed crew was continue to follow him. Was a daily walking towards the cursed party, and the treasure the color for quarters of this treasure. The crew loudly just howling and just about starting for a big party, and Barbosa has the knife. He starts to kill the Will onto his blood all over his heading down. And Jack was walking towards to the Barbosa's crew, and he stopped his party, and Will is saving for Jack. He has an intention to do. He was impossible to be friendly. He was not probably be started, he was certainly been messed before. She was wondering to see Barbosa's crew, Norrington's, to want her for the woman. He says, "Shut up, you next," and he literally just pointed his knife at his neck. He didn't want her to be doing that. No, I really think I do. She was reapplied for no reasons. He says, "You're Finwell." She was sort of confused. But he says, "Why did he do that?" He just walked to is slapped into his hand. The HMS Dauntless and his British Royal Navy's and his crew. He starts to wait for Barbosa and his crew. Starts to continue the last battle of the ships. To sea, once it over, and so to sea, and Malloy and Mutal just considering about tales in the ship. The pirate knows about walking towards the ocean floor into the beach, ocean floor to the sand. Norrington was insane, Mr. Sparrow, and it set it. And he went inside already, and he walked towards the wrong way. Here's his main way towards about the street southeast. And so you notice about one by one to drop it to put in the treasure in one of the codex and one of the Aztec gold. That was exactly what is proposed to be one of the great measurements. He was to say all hands to the deck, and he take the walk. And for what they say, no boats, but he walked under the water march, and he tore up into the instrument dauntless into the boy plane, climbing over into the moonlight stars and the skirmishers, and he starts to the aid for the soldiers against about the fire. Elizabeth leaves for the boat. The governess knocks to the cabin doors, and he hears about say Elizabeth. I just wanted to know about very good on it. Just want to be making sure that she'll be safe. For right now, one thing about the very most of you, if you tell us about for the long stories, when the skeleton pirate just sneaky over to the mutiny into the ships all around there, and it starts to sneak kill the soldier. He was climbed down into the boat, and she wants to help Jack and Will to get to the fight against the lot of residue for Jacoby and the pirate crew, and Barbossa fights for Jack. Patel and Getty just unwilling on, and there are two of them on the boat. When Commodore Mulan and Mutal understood about Royal Navy Marines, he was considering to see howling to make it his noise, and he was started fight. He starts an alarming, tries a gunshot. He tries to choke on him, and Lieutenant Gillett he was spying over his sunglasses. He almost shot on his head. It is his hat. And he starts to fight. He has no idea his alarm do. To be continued to he was considering for Barbossa and his soul stupidity, and he started for fight. Started now, and Will Turner and starts fighting Jacoby and one of the three crews, and he was started to fight to be duel over the day. He says he'll be monsters for any time for one good reasons. As she arrival for the Black Pearl, she arrival back to the Black Pearl, sneaks around very slowly, alternative, and there's no one there than the mutiny out there, and Elizabeth didn't scared by the skeleton monkey, but he didn't make it scared. Tries to falling from the sails in the net, but he falls to water, and then two of the crew just charging in, starting to eat from the dinner night from the cannon in the table. I was just literally just seeing rescuing for Josh Gibbs, Marty Cotton, and Anna Maria Cotton's para, and it's Molly could rescue from the prison into the brig, and it starts the fight continue to be climbing over in the dauntless deck into the cannon, push it back into the bigger cannon, and a lot of the wounded crewmen just banging in the bell ring. He's hearing the gunshot. What is it about the musket with pistols, the flank ones, all the aid of the crew, the reinforcement. He moves a lot of it. Sometimes he gets to remove it at where it's at. The cannons are ready to fire, and he's getting to started to inspiration to the fiery cannons, to the shot into the water from to hit the damage for the boats. And the governor's watch just freaks out and hides in under the cabin's door, and he could be a lot of them for saying everything he could he tries to punch. He tries to punch inside to shatter the door's glass, and tries to pull his wig hair out, and his head ball, almost. Tries to hit. Tries to break his skeleton arm, and hideous. He starts to fight it for one of the reason, and he can punch over, try to stab it just an immunity, and he tries to stab Jack, almost again dies. He learns a curse for no reason, the one of good reasons. He's tingling for the last gold, and he was deserving of most everything, and he continue to fight, and he literally just fighting for the three bad guys, and he was starting out. He figured it out, and but he is to know about fairy and top and dioxide. According to the cursed ones, been about all started for now, and chances if we do billowing immunity and damages, and useful to be useful for the fight for Jack and Barbosa to do on in the Illa de Malta, and pirates confirmation for fiery cannons almost about rolling to the boats under the his ship. His skeleton hands almost moving towards the swan. He whacks the bones. He tries to gunshot him in his about immunity skulls into his about dead body, but he tries to move it around. But he tries to close his cabinets. He's shaken. He was saying it could be continued about very long a period. It was immunity and saying no idea could actually be special. It's no special, so it'd be a good deal. And Elizabeth and this Joshua Gibson's crew for Jack Sparrow, and Molly crew tries to steal the pearl, reveals to the black pearl, goes back to repair it from the cursed. He goes back to for the seven seas to all the way miles to the Port Royal. And Patel Wiggett looks up and he says, I see he was supposed to doing that. He literally just panically said, he's stealing the ship. Bloody pirates. And he replied, and Norrington is could aided for figure out. And the rest of it for fight as to all of the knows about fighting for freedom, fighting for Britain Empire. And when the Royal Navy is a huzzah for victorious, and Norrington starts fighting for the bosun and this is skeleton crew, and he whacks in, he misses, and he's banging over his right eye. He bangs over the one eye. He's moving. He starts moving around. He was sort of about ridiculously. Millie and Mutar just started the charges, and to be continued. And Jacoby was throwing his bomb grenade, starts in the explosion. He almost misses, jumps over almost the diseases. And he says, I'm gonna teach you when the pirate and light pain. And she's back from the Black Pearl. And when she figure out, and she wants to help Will, and he starts to fight for the Jack and Barbosa, starts to fight with a duel today. Will and Elizabeth fights together for the three bad guys, and some of them about very dangerously, and she took a lot about very very spirit, and he tries to stab and hit the three bad guys in the pirate cursed, and he starts puts over his body, tries to explode. So 3 crews are definitely about killed, and he tries to shave at his he tried to stab himself with his blood, and he tries to cut his hand with his blood on his gold. Tries to throw he tries to catch the wheels under his hand. Tries to cock under the flank pistol. He gets shot. For Elizabeth, it is his fate, for Elizabeth died. He says 10 years are about to feel like he's been shot. Will says you didn't waste it. And Will has his knife. He drops the gold for the last time. Barbosa, he definitely, with the blood flowing, it is about the chest. What do you say he feels? And he sees cold. The last words, he drops the apple, what he says, in one bite, before he's dead. Commodore Norrington and his crew stops for fight for the capturing for the cursed pirates. He's stabbing Twig in his stomach. He literally just killed him. He literally just was been killed. His arm was broken, was bloody into the drawers there under there. And the moon was started to the cursed. He was resumed. He drops over his weapon, and he says, "Parley." Norrington orders to the ship's all, "Gentlemen, huzzah, huzzah!" The victorious and the skirmishers Illa Demelta for his skirmishers HMS Dauntless. The governor came out from the cabin for his victorious, and Elizabeth and Will has about almost kiss his relationship, and Jack needs to get to his about treasurers, and to get the Black Pearl was fleeing for the port while he comes back, and she's Elizabeth apologizing for Jack. He was considering for an attention to be continued. He was just so proud of him. And today in the afternoon is Port Royal. Jack has suspended for the last one for the pirate. For Jack Sparrow, mostly have it about the guilty of suspended to being merciful about longest as he can. That he knows about his pirate. He could have about Captain Jack Sparrow. Captain Sparrow flies over into the fort. But he starts to spit on it in his soldier's red coat. And he was helping him for one reason. When Elizabeth lost by Will Turner. When Commodore looks for your love for Will, he was telling the truth. He was a considerer, so he was a consideration. He was to say he loved him. I was just gonna have to say everything what he could about a long time. When he gets about almost getting crack on his neck, almost getting choke on him. He runs over for his people, crowded, and he gets moving out of the way. He tries to throw his sword on his wood deck, tries to save Jack from his about the guilty the night of British nightman, and he starts to fight the big guys. He tries to push in, and he was trying to escape, and for Jack Sparrow goes down there. And when 2 guys just swing over to these soldiers, and it's the red coat, and he was running to escape, and they capture it and stops them. Tries to almost get his flank, trying to point at them with his flank musket rifle. Commodore Hamilton confronts for Will, and Governor Swan too. Governor Swan confronts Will too, and he says, "I'm a good man." Will says, he will reply it for one of a good reason, one of a good same man was it the Jack Sparrow was, considering he wanted to release him, and he didn't intentionally to be last one. He was on considerations annually to be the one that should be end of it. For Commodore Norrington and talking about thanking for about his much info on thanking him, and Swan too, he was just on thanking him, and Will calls about apologizing for accepted, and Elizabeth, he was a great scene about from Jack Sparrow. Will, he says good luck. Will has the Jack talk to the Jack, says good luck for them. His gentleman on your jets, and but he wasn't insane. Good day, lad, ladies. And this is the day. The most of the day, he almost fell over. He almost fell over to the cliff, to the water. He says, "Idiot, he's going right to the noose." And the crew say, "Sail ho." And the Black Pearl was sailed from the coast, was modulated to being about one of the great size. Lieutenant Gillett ordered from Norrington, but he goes back to work with his soldiers for all the time. Governor Swan seen about to release him to be his good, but he say they're good of them. They're good pirate. He says, "Commodore, what about Sparrow?" And he leaves him alone for his ship, but he's new. But he tries to work with him. And Commodore commercials for William Turner. He was beautiful sword. He's a wonderful blacksmith. He thanks for him. And he was in concentration for his about blacksmith. For Governor Swan says. She says no. Will isn't a new pirate, and he's kissing started the end. He swims over to the Pearl, and the crew was swinging into the net, and tries to swing down to the ground in the mutiny. And the Gibbs reunited with his Molly friends and crews, and Anna Maria